Evening, everyone. We are glad to have you here this Saturday, the 15th of June, 2024. It's 11 a.m. in Atlanta, where we are streaming from, but we know that people are joining us from different places. Again, we're happy to have you here. I'm going to go ahead and share our agenda for the day. My name is Bola Odetopon, and I am your host today. I'm your host, I'm your presenter, and I'm glad to be here with you and to have you here with me. So our webinar is titled Leveraging the Power of Positive Self-Esteem. And the agenda is, well, we're doing the welcoming, we're going to have an introduction of who the organization is, then we'll do a quick poll, and then the presentation itself. We would have opportunity to have questions and comments and contributions all through the presentation. So please engage with us in the chat, ask your questions, put your comments, what you agree with, what you do not agree with, and then of course we're going to actually have the opportunity to discuss whatever we share as we go along, and then the announcements and closing. So this morning, like I said, we are talking about the power, leveraging the power of a positive self-esteem. And this webinar is sponsored or put together by Parenting Resources and Initiatives, popularly known as PRI. So who is PRI? PRI is a faith-based, non-denominational organization that's committed to helping parents fulfill their God-given role of raising well-rounded children. Our vision is to enable families, thriving families, with excellent parent-child communication in a conducive environment where a child's potentials are maximized. And we do this by encouraging and supporting and providing resources for parents so that they can raise children who will be physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally sound, all round, balanced children. And that's our goal, that's our mission. And we do this in different ways. One is through webinars like this. We have community meetups, we have small groups, we sometimes we have meetups for parents in one season of life, or children in one season of life or the other. And sometimes we just have, an entire mixed group together. It depends on what we are discussing. So I've said that just for the benefit of those who are new to PRI or to any of our events. Again, welcome, and we hope you have a good ride with us this morning. So I'm going to go ahead and do something called, it's a quick check-in, and I'm going to launch, I'm going to stop sharing for a while and launch something called Menti, and we're going to just get an idea of what our understanding of self-esteem is. You can either, there's a code on the screen, but there's also I see that the old one is still there. So there's also a link. I'm going to put a link on the chat, in the chat. So you can either put copy the code that you see on the screen, either copy the code, go to menti.com and put that code, or click on the link that I've just dropped in the chat. So whichever way you do, it would bring you to a screen. So if you are there, let me know, put in whatever answer you want to, whatever it says. What words come to mind when you hear the phrase self-esteem? Anybody in there? Hello? Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so if you're there in menti.com, please type in something. Let me know that you're there. The code is 89159449. And also there's a link in the chat that you can use to join directly as well. Let's just get an idea of what comes to our minds when we hear the phrase self-esteem. You can go to menti.com and put it in so that we see the words that you're typing on your phone. We see it on our screen. Menti.com, code is 89159449, or just click the link in the chat. There's a link in the chat. It says join or collaborate. Just click and then you type in the word. Whatever self-esteem means to you, go ahead and type that. I see some words coming in. The way this works is that if a word is coming up repeatedly from people, then that word is bigger than the other. So I see the word confidence here, so which means many more people are using confidence, as what comes to mind. I see joy, I see identity, I see self-love, self-belief, hope, positive sense of self, self-confidence. So those are the words that I'm seeing. All right, so well, we're all right. Self-esteem connotes self-confidence, connotes a positive sense of self, self-belief, success, hope, self-love, identity, confidence, Okay, so that's a good, it says, yeah, I see another one. It says, yes, I can. Absolutely. So that's a good one. Yeah, we all seem to have a good understanding of that. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the poll now and get back to business. All right. All right. So like I said, my name is Bola Odetokun, and I'm going to be your presenter. I hope everyone can see my screen. Once again, the title is Leveraging the Power of Positive Self-Esteem, Practical Tips for Parents and Teens. So if you're a parent here, we hope you learn something for yourself and something that you can also use for your children. And if you're a teen here or young adult here, we have tips for you as well. And if you're not a parent, you're just an adult, these things can help you as well. So wherever you fall into, whichever category you fall into, we know that there will definitely be something for you here today. So introduction, brief overview of what self-esteem is, importance of self-esteem for both teens and parents. And our objectives are to understand self-esteem, learn strategies to build it, learn and share, learn from one another, share with one another. If you mastered it, you're welcome to share with us. And then what practical tips we can apply. And let me say here that self-esteem is a journey. I don't know anybody that gets to a place in life where they don't sometimes get challenged. There are things there are challenges that come your way and may want to tug at your self-esteem, but you resolve to continue to grow, to continue to build, and to continue to improve. Sometimes are better than the other. There are some people that are 80% on that journey. Some people are closer to 100%, and maybe some people are really struggling and, like maybe at 10 or 40%. It's okay as long as you do not stop, as long as you identify, that you need to keep working and growing your self-esteem, you're on the right track. So what is self-esteem? Self-esteem is how you perceive and value yourself. It's the estimation or judgment of yourself by yourself. Now, we're not talking about external factors now. We're talking of how you see yourself, what value, what worth you attach to yourself. And it can be positive or negative, because sometimes we see ourselves, correctly, and sometimes we don't see ourselves at all. You are lost even to yourself. So, but your self-esteem is the total summation of everything you consider about yourself, every worth, every value that you put on yourself. Is the value high or is it low? That's what we would, explore today. And, how can you help yourself, or how can you take advantage of things that can help you? we will delve into all of that today. So what are the components of self-esteem? Different psychologists and authors and speakers have different things, but broadly speaking, here are some top, I would say the top 5 for me components of self-esteem: self-worth, self-respect, self-acceptance, self-love, and confidence. Some authors will say confidence is by itself, that it's not even part of self-esteem at all, that they are very close, but they are distinct. But some have categorized it as a component of self-esteem. Well, as you dig further, you can make that determination for yourself. But for simplicity, I've just listed them here. Self-worth, self-respect, self-acceptance, self-love, and self-confidence. So why is self-esteem important? It's important because it affects how you make decisions. If you have a very poor estimation of yourself, there's no doubt you will make very bad decisions. You will pass up on things that you should tackle. You would not have the energy, to even make decisions to start with. And you will almost always make poor decisions because you're down, like they say, you're down in the valley, you're just there. So it can affect your decision making, it can affect how well you make decisions, or whether you even make decisions at all. Like someone said, not making a decision is a decision by itself. And then of course it affects people's mental health. If your self-esteem is very, very low and very negative, it's just a short while before it will begin to play out in terms of your mental alertness, in terms of your well-being. And some people have said, doctors, psychotherapists, physiologists, or psychologists have said that, a poor self-esteem can actually open the door to mental breakdown, So we want to be sure that we are taking good care of ourselves and, building up our self-esteem. The other thing with self-esteem is that it can affect your relationships. If you're a constantly low person, you're constantly down, you're constantly negative, you're constantly talking negative about yourself, you will talk negative about other people as well. And of course, it's not fun hanging around such people. I've had friends that I had to give them a break because they were constantly talking negative. They were constantly unhappy. They were constantly angry. And they were constantly second guessing. And as much as I tried to help them, it was beginning to rub off on me the wrong way. My time around them is always loaded. Let me use that word, loaded, with complaints, with arguments, because when I try to say, oh, but maybe don't look at it that way, maybe think of it in a better way, maybe this is a better way to view it, becomes an argument. So over time, I will just gradually put a distance, try and see if I can help them from a distance before I go in the valley with them. So, self-esteem, a poor self-esteem can have a bad influence on your relationship. On the other way, the other way around, if you have a positive self-esteem, you can really, your relationships can really blossom. So you again, you want to pay attention to your self-esteem. And of course, the last but not the least, academic performance. And this is very, very important for children, for teenagers, and anybody who is a student. In fact, the other thing that I didn't put here is even performance at work, not just academic performance, even career performance. So let me just say here, let me add here, academic/career performance or business performance. If you are a negative person, you don't believe in yourself, you don't believe you can achieve anything, it starts to show. As a student, it starts to show. Your grades will start to slide. And if you are somebody who is working, it will show up in your performance report. You will not meet deadlines. You will drop the ball on your team. And before you know it, your manager will be having conversations with you that you'd rather not have. So it's important for us to take a good care of ourselves, get a good grip on our self-esteem so that we are going in the right direction, So these are ways by which ways by which self-esteem can affect us. And so we should consider it very, very important. Decision-making, mental wellness, relationships, and academic performance. That's basically the broad spectrum of life right there, Factors influencing self-esteem. Before I go into that, I want to share something very quickly, and some of you may have had this, some people may be hearing it from me for the first time. When I first came into this country, I worked in, of course, I'd made some decisions about what I would do and what I would not do. And part of what I wanted to do, coming from where I was coming from, is I knew I wanted to teach, I wanted to do something in the educational system and all of that. But I couldn't get into the school system straight away. So I started in the preschool, but what I realized is that at some point it became very difficult. It became very difficult. I'll be going into work and crying and all of that, because I was like, okay, for how long am I going to do this? This is way beneath where I was coming from. But I kept talking to myself. I kept talking to myself. I kept encouraging myself. I kept playing the picture of my target, my destination. Like when people talk of vision boards and all of that, I had a vision, a clear vision of what I wanted to do. So I kept telling myself, this is just part of my journey. This is not my destination. This is not where I'm going to end, So I kept talking positively to myself. I kept encouraging myself. I kept playing the picture of my final destination, my perceived final destination, the destination that I understand in my mind, at the back of my mind. I kept bringing it to the front and telling myself, I can tell you, again, I said some people may know this already because I've shared it in a few meetings. I worked in the preschool system, preschool/school system. I worked in the school system as a para-pro for a few years, and then I switched to the preschool system, and I worked a total of about 7 years. 7 good years. That was not a joke. I had thought this would be 2 years max or 3 years. All along, I was writing my exams. I decided I was going to continue to pursue IT, which I had done a little bit of before coming to the US. So I decided I was going to follow that route. And I kept taking my exams, passing the exams like, crazy. But I couldn't transition. There was no job. I could not, all I was doing was this preschool work for 7 good years, and it was tough. It was rough. But looking back, I believe, and I know, not just believe, that part of what helped me to continue and to hang in there until I broke through was a positive self-esteem. I kept telling myself what I believed about myself, not what my circumstances were telling me. I kept telling myself the things that I knew, the things that I had achieved. I kept reminding myself. I kept reminding myself of places where I had failed and how I climbed out of the failure, and also the places where I had succeeded and how I succeeded. And I kept using those things to build my self-esteem. They were becoming like fuel to the engine, and I kept going on and on and on until finally one day, like they say, I hit it. But it's not hitting it just like that. There's nothing like hitting it. The work was going on behind the scenes. The work was going on, more importantly, in my mind. My circumstances were negative. My circumstances were discouraging, very discouraging. But in my heart, in my mind, I knew what I wanted, and I kept looking for ways to get there. I kept encouraging myself. I kept using scriptures, reading books, And so I want to encourage someone today, if you are here, and you find yourself where you really never thought you would be. I hope you take something, 1 or 2 things from my story, and as we continue, I hope you get more to help you. So factors influencing self-esteem. There are internal factors and there are external factors. 1, personal beliefs. And by personal beliefs, I'm talking about the things that you believe about yourself. The things, if a person of faith, what do you believe based on your faith? What does your faith teach you about yourself? What have you come to hold as the standard for yourself? What are the goals you have set for yourself? What do you think is a limit? For me, I don't see limits. I see things that I have to achieve. I see goals that I have to achieve. Yes, there may be barriers, there may be obstacles, but I don't see limits. If anything presents itself as a limit, I find an opportunity, I find tools, I find resources to dismantle that limit. So what are your personal beliefs? What are you doing inside of you? What is limiting you? Or what are you using to advance yourself? What is your journey standing on? The next thing is self-talk. Like I'm just sharing my story a few minutes ago. I talked to you about talking to myself, constantly reminding myself that I am this, I can do this, I've got this. This is where I want to get to, and I'm going to find a way to get there. I'm going to find the resources to get there. So self-talk is very important. Self-talk, if you're self-talk and you're constantly positive, it makes a whole lot of difference. And the same way, if it's negative, you have to be very careful what you're saying to yourself. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're talking to yourself hundreds of times a day. At least I do. And from what I've studied and researched, a lot of people talk to themselves. All of us talk to ourselves one way or the other, whether you're very conscious of it or not. So the important thing is, what are you saying to yourself when you are behind the doors, when nobody is there with you, when you are just you? No cameras, no lights, nothing, just you. What are you saying to yourself? It's very important. And of course, past successes or failures. Our past successes can be catalyst to building our self-esteem. And our failures can be, things that also are catalyst or that actually hold us back. It depends on how you look at your failure. Do you see your failure as an opportunity? You see failure as an opportunity to learn. Like somebody said, you haven't failed until you have told yourself that you have failed. So you can fail at something, but you don't have to fail. That something, that task, that challenge does not have to mean that you have failed as a person. How do you handle the failure? So those are internal factors that can affect or influence your self-esteem. External factors, and those are very strong because they are things you see easily. Family influence. In some family, maybe people don't rise beyond a certain level, or somebody, maybe you are the first person trying to go to college, and you haven't seen any good example. Like I know there's this narrative about, with us Black people, that, oh, we don't see people who look like us in certain environments, in certain spheres of life and all of that. So what? Why don't you make up your mind that, yes, I may not see somebody who looks like me, but I'm going to justify being here by putting in the work. For some of us, it's within our family circle. We don't have the encouragement. We don't have the support system, to push us, to encourage us, to tell us that we can do it. And when you don't have those, it really, really can be tough. I can tell you that. That's one very strong influence of self-esteem. Because if you don't have a supportive family system, if you don't have anybody showing you an example of, you can do this, the struggle can really, really be bad, be hard, The other thing is peer influence. Who are the people that you have surrounded yourself with? Are there people who tell you that, yes, we believe in you, you can do it? And there are people that are constantly telling you, you're joking. Why do you think you can do this? Who do you know that has done it? Who like you, can do it or has done it? Do you see anybody that looks like you here? If those are the people that surround you, then it's going to be difficult. Your self-esteem is constantly going to be in the dumps, So you want to make sure that the peer influence around you is such that can help you to build a positive self-esteem. The last one, of course, is not the last, but that's the last one that I'm talking about: media and cultural influence. These days, we are all living, we are all living out in the media, out, in front of everybody. And so we see all kinds of different things that can either raise us up or build or pull us down, build us up or pull us down. And more often than not, we seem to see the negative. Like somebody said, the negative sells better than the positive. Negative news sell a lot. They sell quicker. They sell more than positive ones. So you have to consciously ask yourself, what am I picking from the media? What am I picking from the culture around me? What is it doing to me? What is the culture around me telling me? Is it building me up? When I watch some things or when I listen to some things, how do I feel after listening to them? How do I feel after watching those things? Do I feel good? Does it challenge me to go up? Does it challenge me to be a better version of myself? Or is it the other way around? You have to make the determination for yourself. So these are some of the factors that affect, self-esteem, internal factors and external factors, and I'll say from experience, The external factors can be very, very strong, but I believe from personal experience and from research that the internal factors are way stronger than the external factors. So you need to do a lot of work on this person inside, on your person. And if you build up yourself on the inside, you would have the power, the credit, the energy to knock off the negative external factors. Let's move on. Do I have any question for now? Okay, signs of high versus low self-esteem. I think I've already mentioned some of them, but I'm going to run through. So if somebody has high self-esteem or positive self-esteem, part of what you will see is that they have confidence in their abilities. They have this I can do attitude. They believe that they can do it. They don't say no. They don't quit easily. They have a positive self-image. They are resilient. They keep going on. You can hardly get them to stop, because they don't see the end of the road. They see a curve. They would always try to find a way around something, because on the inside they're telling themselves, I've got this, I can do this, I have the power, I have the ability, I have the resources. Like African parents, for those of us who grew up in Africa or who have African parents, there's this I'm trying to find a word for it. It's something they say, like if you tell your parent, your African parent, that, oh, you scored 80% or even 90%, they will tell you, why didn't you score 100%? The person who scored 100% does not have two heads. Is anybody there with me? Anybody? Have you ever heard an African parent say that to themselves or say that to their child? They will say to you, you don't have two heads. The people who are scoring 100% don't have two heads. So we believe that we are very, very, very resilient. Africans are very resilient, generally speaking, and our parents push us in that direction. They push us to not accept no. They push us to not take no for an answer. They keep us to try finding a way. And that's very good, even though I know that there are also some extremes where some parents might push their children beyond the child's abilities. We're not talking of extremes, but we're talking of, not giving in, not giving up, not quickly accepting defeat. Of course, there are times in life where you have to accept defeat and then, regroup and then find ways forward. But we're talking about, encouraging yourself, being tenacious, being resilient, and going on and on and on. Low self-esteem is the other way around, self-doubt, negative self-talk. You avoid challenges, because you tell yourself, oh, I can't do it. Oh, I can't do it. Oh, I don't know how to do it. Oh, nobody's going to teach me. Oh, nobody likes me. Oh, I can't ask for help, because if I ask for help, I will get a no. Says who? Just go ahead and ask. And even if it's a no, it's not the end of the world. So you see, we see these signs between people who have positive self-esteem and people who have negative self-esteem. I'm sure some of you have some other signs, that come to your mind. I would want to hear those as we go along. So for parents, how do we build positive self-esteem? How do we help our children to build this, self-esteem? How can we create an atmosphere? Number one, it says model positive self-esteem. So model positive self-esteem for your child. But if you yourself don't have positive self-esteem, then how are you going to model that for your child? So part of what we are talking about today is you building your own positive self-esteem or building your own self-esteem so that you can help your child build a positive one as well. Two, provide constructive feedback. When you fail or when your child fails, it's not the end of the world. Give them constructive feedback, even if not failing, but if they're attempting to do something, be constructive in your feedback. Don't be judgmental. Your feedback should not be such that would, like break the bone of that child. Like they say, words and sticks. I've forgotten that statement about words and sticks. Like words can break my bones. Oh yes, words can break your bones. Words can break your spirit. So let's be careful how we give feedback, how we assess our children, how we judge them. And the next one is encourage effort, not just results. Sometimes our kids don't perform as well as we want. and the results don't, sometimes even the results don't show that you have put in an effort. Even as adults, sometimes you take an exam or you do so much at work, and at the end of the performance year, you don't get the results that you expect. Commend yourself for the effort and look for ways to get the results that you want. But don't let the fact that the results were not what you expect, stagnate you. Don't become stagnant just because the results that you had at that point in time were not what you're expecting. Bring yourself out of the dust, dust yourself, and then, move forward. Look for ways to get the results that you're actually looking forward to. And then next thing, create a supportive home environment. Create an environment where your child feels comfortable to fail or to pass. I'm not saying encourage failure, but let them know that failure is not the end of the world. Let me share a quick story. There was my daughter at some point during her first degree. She's finished her master's and she's working. So this was a long time. She called me and said, "Mom, I don't think I want to continue." And I said, "What?" She said, "Yes, I don't think I want to continue. I'm struggling. I don't like this, da, 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 da." I said, "Okay, what do you want to do? You want to take a gap year, you want to take a semester break, or you want to take a full year, you want to change course." So I asked her all these questions. I gave her all the options. And I said, "You know what? Let's take 3 days, let's take a week and come back and talk about this. We'll walk through this, So I said, "Can you finish this semester?" She said, "Yes." "Are you sure?" Because at that point in time, I was thinking of a lot of things that, were happening in our lives. And I was like, okay, I don't just want to be the African parent that says, "Oh, no, never. You have to finish." Da, 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 da. I took a step back. It was tough for me, but I took a step back and I looked at the situation and I said, okay, if this is what you have to do, it's okay. But we have to have a plan towards it. A supportive home environment is one in which a child is able to come to you as the parent and say, "Mom, Dad, I'm struggling with this. Mom, Dad, this is not working for me. What can I do? How can you help?" So you have to create that environment, that atmosphere where your child feels safe enough to come to you. Of course, for those of you who know me, you know that how that story ended, because she finished her first degree. And before she finished, while I thought she was going to look for a job, she had applied without me knowing for grad school, and she went in straight. So what had happened was, like the week that we were supposed to gather together again to come back, she said, oh, she wasn't available, she was busy. And then the next thing, she was sending me a schedule for the next semester. And I said, what is this? This is not what we talked about. She said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to continue. I was just overwhelmed, da 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 da." But the truth is, if I hadn't handled it very well, she may have just dropped out and never even finished. So parents, we have to be careful and we have to listen. We have to listen. We have to hear what they are not even saying. We have to process things. So the last one, celebrate achievements and progress. Celebrate achievements and progress. Little achievements, little progress. Let's celebrate it. That serves as fuel for them to continue to make progress, for them to continue to achieve more. Don't wait until they have a big thing. Every effort that they put in, celebrate it. Every progress that they make, let's celebrate it. It helps them to believe in themselves. It helps them to believe that they can do it. It helps them to know that they have someone rooting for them. It's very, very important. Sorry. Okay, building positive self-esteem, tips for teens. I know I have some teens and young adults here. Number one, set and achieve small goals for yourself. Sometimes if it's too big a goal, it can be very daunting. It can look very, like difficult to achieve, but learn to break them into small goals. For instance, if you're currently a C student or a B minus, and your goal is an A, ask yourself, how can I go from C or a B minus to an A? If your points or your GPA increases by 2 points, that's good. And then the next semester, it improves by another 2 points and on like that until you finally arrive at that A. So set and achieve small goals for yourself, and hold yourself accountable to people who can help you assess those goals and work with you on that journey of achieving the goals. Number 2, practice positive self-talk. Like I mentioned in the earlier slides, talk positively to yourself. Do not allow negativity around you. In the same vein, don't surround yourself with positive people. Don't surround yourself with people who talk negative. Don't surround yourself with teenagers and young adults who don't see anything good in life. They want to be down in the dumps and they're looking to pull people down there with them. No, run. Run as fast as your legs can carry you. You can help them, you can encourage them from a distance, but do not allow them to dictate how you live your own life. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to be the best version of yourself. And of course, engage in activities that bring joy. Yesterday, I was talking with a friend of mine. I went to a co-working space, and then during the work day, I think we took about 20 or 30 minutes to just go outside and sit and talk. And then we were laughing and laughing and laughing. And I was like, oh, wow, that lifted my mood so much. I felt like, wow. And I said to the person, I said, why I can understand why some people are just moody all day long, and why before you know it, the atmosphere around them is not something you want. Laughter, does a lot. Joy does a lot for your soul, for your spirit. So even if it is small, small things that bring you joy, do it. Go for a walk, play a game, watch a movie together with a friend, go on a stroll, little things that bring you joy. You'll be surprised at how it lifts your spirit and it helps you to see yourself better and to see what you can do, to see that you can do more and you can do better than you're currently doing. And of course, last but not the least, learn from your mistakes. I've said this earlier, failure is not final. You can fail at something. That doesn't mean you have failed in life. Assess the situation. What could I have done better? Maybe I could have studied harder. Maybe I could have turned in my assignment earlier. Maybe I could have started, like instead of waiting till the last minute. You have an assignment, you've been given 2 weeks for the assignment, and then you wait, till 2 days, and then you now rush, and then you fail. There's a whole lot of lessons to learn from that. So learn from the mistakes. Don't allow, mistakes that you have made to be the full stop on your life or on your journey. Learn from those mistakes and move on. There's always, something better ahead. There's always a clearer path ahead. You just have to look towards it. The role of communication. What does communication, or how does communication help us building our self-esteem? I think I've mentioned some of them. For parents, actively listen to your child. Don't shut your child down. When you consistently shut a child down, you bring down or you diminish them, and it affects their self-esteem. Ask open-ended questions. Don't let them get away with a yes or no answer. Ask them questions that help them to think, that help them to process their thought. And do the same thing with yourself. I do the same for myself. I ask myself questions over and over again. Show empathy, show understanding. When people go through stuff in life, it helps them to recover quickly if they are surrounded by people who show empathy and who show understanding. Avoid criticizing people. Yes, you can give feedback, but don't give criticism, bad criticism. If there's something like criticism, like people say, oh, positive criticism or whatever. But, avoid criticism and judgment. Avoid criticism that does not offer solution. Like if you're going to criticize something, the good way to do is, okay, this is not good. Why don't you look at it that way, this way? Or this could have been better done this way. Instead of just saying, oh, this is bad. When you say this is bad, that's just judgment. But when you say this is not so good, or it may be better this way, it's a better way of doing or saying the same thing. So let's avoid criticism and judgment. Let's offer constructive feedback. It helps a lot in building people's self-esteem. Handling challenges, whether as a parent or as an individual, we all have to address negative influences. There are influences around us, like I said, social media, the culture, all of this wokeism and everything. There are negative influences out there. The unfortunate thing is that they speak louder than the positive influences. So you have to learn how to address them. You have to learn how to manage them so they do not take root in your own life. They do not take root in your spirit, in your soul, because that is where, again, I keep going back to that. That is where your self-esteem gets, what becomes what it becomes in your mind. So address the negative influences around you. Don't let them sit. Like they say, you can't stop a bird from flying over your head, but you can stop it from building a nest. The negative influences are all around, but you can prevent them from taking a hold of your life. Stop trying to please others. Stop trying to adjust your life to suit other people's expectations. No, it's okay if you say, oh, I want to be encouraged by this person, or this person is an influencer, I want to learn from them and all of that. But don't let their life dictate your own. Pick what you can learn from them and design the life that you want for yourself. Don't pattern your life, strictly on somebody else's life. Number 3, learn how to cope with failure. I already addressed that. Learn how to cope with failure. Acknowledge failure. Don't run from it. Call it what it is. It is failure. How did I get here? What could I have done better? And then create steps for yourself. If you need help, ask somebody who has succeeded in the same thing. The problem with many of us is that we're too proud to ask for help. You don't want to ask. Somebody is doing this thing that you're struggling to do. Ask for help. Read, research, go online. These days, anything you want is there. And if you have people around you, address them. Reach out to them and say, can I take some of your time? I remember one time my son said something to me. He said, Mom, I just go and look for people who are in my space on LinkedIn, and I send them an email or a private message. Sometimes they answer, sometimes they don't. The ones that don't, fine. The ones that answer, I learn a lot from them. Sometimes it's just a 5 minutes of exchange with them, or 10 minutes. And they share a lot with him about their career, about their journey, about what he needs and all of that. And they say, hey, here's my number. Feel free to call me, or here's my email. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So we have to learn to take advantage of the resources that we have, and not, let one failure, don't let one failure stagnate you. And of course, finally, seek professional help if you need it. There are times that for some of us, all these things don't help. You can't help yourself. You feel you are too far down there to come up by yourself, and you need that extra help to come up. Please look for help. Seek professional help if you must, but please don't stay on the same spot. I'm going to share a quick video clip with us. Some of us probably know this person. Her name is Brené Brown. She's an author, a podcaster, a professor, and she's very big on emotions, self-esteem, courage, vulnerability, and all of that. The clip is less than maybe just a minute or so, and then we'll come back and discuss that. Share this.
Don't walk through the world.
Okay, I'm going to go back and share. Sorry, my apologies.
For evidence that you don't belong, because you will always. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you will always find it. Yes. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you'll always find it. Our worth and our belonging are not negotiated with other people. We carry those inside of our hearts. And so for me, I know who I am. I'm clear about that. And I'm not going to negotiate that with you. I will negotiate a contract with you. I will negotiate maybe even a topic with you, but I'm not going to negotiate who I am with you. Because then, this is, I think, the heart of the book, then I may fit in for you, but I no longer belong to myself. And that is a betrayal I'm not willing to do anymore. I spent the first 30 years of my life doing that. I'm not willing to betray myself anymore to fit in with you. I just can't do it. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you will always find it. Yes. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you'll always find it. Our worth and our belonging are not negotiated with other people, we carry those inside of our hearts. And so for me, I know who I am. I'm clear about that. And I'm not going to negotiate that with you. I will negotiate a contract with you. I will negotiate maybe even a topic with you, but I'm not going to negotiate who I am with you. Because then, this is, I think, the heart of the book, then I may fit in for you, but I no longer belong to myself. And that is a betrayal I'm not willing to do anymore. I spent the first 30 years of my life doing that. I'm not willing to betray myself anymore to fit in with you. I just can't do it. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong.
All right. So I wanted to do a segue here and have us discuss what did we pick from that short clip. If you want to talk, please raise your hand and unmute, or if you prefer to put it in the chat, whatever, one or two things that you picked from that short clip. Anybody wants to share? Oh, wow. Everywhere is quiet.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, go ahead.
So one thing I heard that she said is, I did that for the first 30 years of my life. So I hear sometimes it's not, because I've been thinking about everything as you are talking. And so I think self-esteem also is progressive. So you get to understand more about yourself as you get older. I think most people, when they are older, they know who they are. I think having self-esteem comes as a result of knowing who you are. And when you are still battling your identity, because you told about the story of when you were working in the nursery, working with children, but that didn't define you. So you knew who you were. So sometimes when we don't know who we are, it's a big issue, because then it's easy to get easily swayed by what people say, because you don't even know who you are. So I hear that is identifying and knowing who you are, and then whatever it is that anybody thinks doesn't really bother you, because you know who you are, you know your worth. So that's
Exactly.
my
Thank you so much, Dr. Quadri. And you are very, very correct. If you don't know who you are, it's I guess that's the starting point. If you know who you are and you know your abilities, then you can now start building on that. I see your question in the chat. Does personality type impact self-esteem? Every personality has self-esteem, but maybe some personality might predispose you to being negative. But that again means that you have more work to do than somebody whose personality is bubbly and all of that and all of that. But like you said, like she said, oh, for 30 years, she allowed people to ride roughshod over her. She allowed people to define, and then she found herself. So maybe the question is, have you found yourself? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you want for your life? Foluke, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
So listening to that, I was thinking of two things. One is the fact that sometimes we don't even take time to process who we are, or even we're not self-aware enough to think about all these things. But then what she said also reminded me of something somebody said this not too long ago. He said to me, stop negotiating with yourself. So I heard her saying, I won't negotiate with you about who I am. But then it's like sometimes we also negotiate with ourselves.
With yourself.
About what we can do or who we are. So it's like, yeah, it's one thing to not negotiate with other people about ourselves, but also to remember that sometimes you allow situations around you to make you forget about who you are. And then sometimes it's like, oh my goodness me, I've done that. And then you just, if you're not careful, just keep going down that rabbit hole. But it's like every now and again, just stop and remind yourself it's okay. Like the speaker before me said, it takes years sometimes. And it's like sometimes when you fall, when you start and you don't, you stop it and you forget it, just remind yourself it's okay. Stop negotiating with yourself, not just with others, but with yourself.
And if you must negotiate with yourself, negotiate upwards, not
Yep.
downwards. Negotiate positively, not negatively. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Miss Adeshui, you have the floor.
Yes. I think of self-esteem as your valuation currency. Evaluation currency. When you have something in your hands and essentially you're telling people how valuable it is, right? So low self-esteem means you're saying my value is low. And if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else believe in you, right? So it impacts where you go, how far you go, how quickly you go. But when you bring something of value to the table and you're telling them, hey, I am valuable just by the way you carry yourself, the way you present yourself, other people will believe you, right? If you come across and say, I'm not worthy, if your body language is saying I'm not worthy, they'll believe you as well. So it's the valuation currency that you present to the world. And based on the value that you place in yourself, that's how that impacts how they value you. So it's something to think about, because that's what's going to impact how far you go, whether you're accepted for the role you're looking for or the opportunity you're looking to open onto you. So the valuation currency needs to be elevated.
Thank you so much. And that's absolutely correct. There's this saying that if you say you are worth 50 cents, if you offer yourself for sale at 50 cents, nobody will price you at $2. You put a price of 50 cents on yourself. Why would I, give you $2? I'm going to see if I can even offer you less than 50 cents, That's the human nature. So don't underprice yourself, Thank you so much. Achenyo, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, one of the first things she said in the first part of her talk, just in a different way, about external validation, not looking for external validation, but looking, for that within you, and within you being understanding what your identity is. And as a Christian, your identity in Christ. When we hear this, particularly in the church setting, we may not understand the importance of how it impacts you, how you show up at work, how you show up in your home, how you show up in your relationships. It impacts everything. And I know we talked about this coming earlier, coming as we go on in life, as we age. Isn't it possible to start earlier to understand who you are? You understand, as a young adult, understanding your self-esteem. I think the earlier you do the process and the work to ground yourself in who you are, the better the later part of your life is. There's certain things I wish I had just, when it comes to confidence and self-esteem, I had learned, earlier on in life. And there are some people that get it, that take the time to go inside with God's word and everything. Who are you in Christ? That's a grounding, and that helps you later on in life. So you don't have to wait here. It comes with age, but there's some things that when you get it as a young person, it helps you in the later part of life.
Yes, you're absolutely correct. And that's why, I keep going back to parents, create the supportive atmosphere at home, the conducive, if you grow up in a house where they allow you to challenge things, where they allow you to ask questions, where they allow you to explore, you will see children from those homes, like you said, Achenyo, they already have a head start, so to say. I remember my first job out of college after doing whatever, Nigerian youths, whatever. My boss said to me, no, it was my second job. My first job lasted maybe 18 months, and then this job. And he said to me one day, he said, which school did you go to? And I told him the high school that I went to and the university. And he said, oh, okay. And I said, I didn't want to say what, in Nigeria, our context, you're respectful, So he said, that the way you talk, the way you carry yourself, the way you make suggestions. In fact, this was the owner of the company. He said, if I was not the owner of the company, I would say, I'm afraid of you, because he said you have a way of packaging everything. You've thought it through. You've done this. You don't have you're not afraid to challenge me, even though I'm the owner. And I smiled, and he said, why are you smiling? I said, because yes, you're right about the school I went to. I said, but more important than the school is where, the home in which I grew up, because my parents allowed us to ask the questions, whether it was stupid or it was not. If it was stupid, they would tell you, and they would tell you a better way to ask it, but they allowed us to ask questions. They allowed us to explore. And that just, gave me like my no boundary frame of mind as I grew up. And for me, I don't care if you are the director or the CEO or the CFO, I'm going to ask what I'm going to ask. But age has allowed me to define how I ask or when I ask, maturity. But I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to express myself. I'm not afraid to ask the tough questions, So like you said, Achenyo, it's easier when we start early. It's easier when our home environment is such that we already started to learn these things, from a younger age, and then we grow into it, and then it just becomes easier and easier, to know who we are, to know what we want, to set goals for ourselves and all of that, And I see a comment here. Yes, this is where it is important for parents to support the building of their children's self-esteem. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so I'm going to move on, except if I don't see any hand up again, so I'll move on to the next slide, and then we can share some more. If people want to share some more, I think we're already doing that. Well, this said interactive activity. We put group discussion there because this was supposed to be a hybrid presentation. So people were supposed to go into groups of 2 or 3. But here we just have, we just look at the personal experiences or tips and strategies. So if you have any personal experience that you want to share, any tip, any strategy, the floor is open. Feel free. Again, you can raise your hand or take the floor. And then if you have any challenge or solution that you have seen people, handle, and you want to share or ask a question about that, please feel free to do so. So the floor is open. Any personal experience? Somebody wants to share a personal experience? Anybody? Any challenge, any solution? I have a question. If there is nobody, I don't see any hand up yet. I have a question. Can I ask my question? Okay, so my question is, if you have a child or an adult, a friend who is negative, constantly negative, and who is constantly talking negative, and you have tried and tried and tried, and you are not able to help them flip. Anybody wants to share how to handle such a person? Maybe it could be, a young adult, or a peer, a parent, anybody. Okay. Dr. Adewale, you have the floor.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Well, for me, people say I'm too harsh, or maybe I'm too straightforward to a fault.
Like me.
That's the way I am. And if I have a friend like that, and I actually do have some friends like that, to be honest. And so if I've tried to help that friend see the positive side of life, because people are coming from different backgrounds. So that person may be coming from the place of their background, their upbringing, what they've experienced in life, but then they don't have to project that on me. And so what I try to do is, if I've tried to help you see reason and try to move you away from that negative aspect of life, and you refuse to, I distance myself. That's one. And two, I then begin to determine what I share, what are the things I'll share with this person. I try to understand that person's level of understanding and then deal with them at that. But if for any reason I see that, okay, you're still not helping my growth, I'm going to distance myself from you. That's what I'll do. Not that you would be my friend, but you'll be a distant friend.
A distant person, because you want to protect your own space as well, right?
Yes.
You don't want to help someone. Like, of course, when we fly, they tell us to put on our face mask, like in the case of any emergency or drop in the pressure, cabin pressure, and all of that. Put a mask over your face before you attempt to help somebody. So you cannot lose your own self-esteem or go down in the dumps, like I say, while you are trying to help somebody come out of the dump. If you're not careful, they'll pull you into the dump with themselves instead of you pulling them out of the dump. So at some point, if you are not making a headway and being able to help them, then you consider yourself at risk and try to protect your emotional space, protect your mental well-being, and then see how you can help them from a distance. Like she said, like you can love people from a distance while you try to keep or maintain your own sanity. Achayo, you have the floor.
I just had a follow-up question, and this is just spitballing here. What if it's someone you can't put at a distance, like a child or a spouse or someone you can't move away from? What do you do in that case?
Okay, Dr. Adewale, you want to answer, or do you want me to answer?
I understand that, okay, as a child, you're helping the child to grow, so you can still reform a child. Although she said a friend, so I was answering based on a friend. But a child, you can still help that child to manage that low self-esteem and encourage them and think. And it's a good thing you say that. What even if it's somebody's husband? You can't move away from your husband. That's when you now have to start praying for that person, because you don't have any choice in that case. Your own is to help the person see and sometimes you give the person space. You don't have to distance them physically, but you can distance them in your mind.
Emotionally.
You can distance somebody in your mind and separate yourself from that negative thing they're trying to project on you. And at the same time, like I said, you have to pray for them. If it's somebody you can't really say, oh, I'm not talking to, or I'll just limit how I talk to this person. So that's the way I would see that.
Thank you so much. So let me add that, like, if it's a child, as a parent, you are the authority figure over that child. So there's a lot that you can do. We talked about providing the right environment. And if after doing all of that, it still is not working, then you as the parent may need to seek professional help for that child. Because if you are constantly encouraging them, you're acknowledging their progress, you're acknowledging their effort, you've created the right atmosphere, you're modeling a positive self-esteem for them, and none of that works. That is the step where they need, or you want to consider seeking professional help for them. If it's a spouse, we can't tell you that just because of a negative self-esteem, go divorce your husband or divorce your wife. But like Dr. Adewale said, you have to protect your mental well-being. You have to guard your own heart. You're not going to leave the house or leave the world because of them. But then that's where you have to now be more conscious that, okay, I cannot let this be projected on me. I cannot let this become the atmosphere around me. I know somebody who, actually two people who it's like they became a threat, to this person that they are very close to. And they are now trying to like pull themselves down, like, oh, I want to be less than I am just to fit in with this person. And I said, no, you can't be less than who you are because you're trying to help somebody feel good with yourself. Let them step up to meet you where you are. You cannot dim your own light so that somebody can shine. They are welcome to shine along with you. So protect your space, protect your mindset, protect your emotion, do the extra work, be on guard, knowing that this is a negative atmosphere around you, right? So as you continue to work on them, help them, you must be on guard, knowing that your mental health and well-being, your self-esteem may be at stake. So you continue to do the work and continue to pray if you are a person of faith. Foluke, I see your hand. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that because you were saying be on guard, be aware, but sometimes being on guard with somebody that you're really, really close to can actually be overwhelming because you are always on. You are always mentally observing, mentally being careful. So I'm thinking that there may come a time where you actually have to lovingly and carefully guide them towards support that is outside of you and outside of
Yes,
themselves.
yes.
So, however way you know to help them seek for that help, that means they need something. Because as
Yes.
you're guarding yourself and being observant, if there are children, those children are also observing, and that can leave emotional trauma in
On the
them.
children,
So
yes.
you want to eventually guide them to seek for help.
Absolutely. And that's why I said begin to consider seeking for professional help, either for the child or for the adult person. For the adult person, they have to make that determination, but at least you can point them, and ask them leading questions that will help them to see that maybe I do need help. And of course, we know that, especially in our culture, in the Black man's culture, people live in denial. They say, oh, I don't need help. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. But like you said, for look at, you can lovingly point it out to them, keep pointing it out to them, keep guiding them. But again, you can't force an adult to seek help. You can force your child to seek help. If that child is under 18, you can set up the appointment and all of that. But once a child, even if it's a child that has passed 18, you cannot force them to seek therapy. At that level, even the therapist will tell you, I need the child's consent, not you. The child has to consent to seeing me. So it's a very dicey thing. But for the adult person, all you can do is lovingly point them or help them realize that they do need help. But ultimately, it's their choice to seek and take the help. Any other question or follow-up comments? All right, I'm going to go back to share the screen, and we'll take the last two slides as we wrap up. So we have a list of suggested resources, and I want to stay here that this is not an endorsement of any author or speaker or product. These are just people that are online. They have podcasts, or they're authors, or they're speakers, and they seem to have covered this extensively. So you'll see Brené Brown, Dr. Chinwe Williams, Dr. Anita Phillips, and the books are listed there: Daring Greatly, Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers, Anita Phillips, The Garden Within. And then there are local and online support groups. If you need help, you can reach out to parenting resources, will point you in the right direction. And of course, like we've said, you may, if you need professional counseling, or a member of your family or a close friend, seek professional counseling. But while you're doing it, please do your due diligence, research the people, research the groups. Don't just sign up for anything just based on people's ratings online. Try and find credible reviews, credible ratings. So, because you don't want to sign up for counseling or support with a group or a person that has not been validated. So again, here are suggested resources. And of course, if you're a child of God, like we have referenced, we have scriptures for you. The Bible is full of scriptures that talk about positive self-esteem, that talk about, how God sees you and how you should see yourself. Psalm 139:13-14 is a very big one. It says, you formed me in my mother's womb, delicately, intricately, and I am fearfully and wonderfully made. 2 Timothy 1:7 says, for the Spirit of God the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, does not make us fearful, but gives us power, love, and self-discipline. So there's no room for fear, because God has given you power, love, and self-discipline. Isaiah 40:31 says, but those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. So you can soar like the eagle, you can run and not grow weary, you can walk and not be faint. Does it mean it's easy? No, but it means that you have help. God is there to help you. And again, Philippians 4:13 says, I can do all this, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. So as a child of God, you have help from God to help you. You also, if you're not a child of God, or you're not a Christian, You know, there are other resources as well. And as Christians, we have a combination. We have the physical resources, we have books, we have podcasts. There's a whole lot out there on the internet now that you can use, you know, for yourself. There are courses, free courses, you know, free support materials that, you know, organizations give to help you in your journey. So please do take advantage of these things and do not stagnate yourself. Do not dwell on the negative. Build your self-esteem. It's a journey. So continue to build, you know, and continue to grow. And yeah, some of us may have started a little later in life because we didn't know a few things. But now that you know, try and catch up. Spend hours building up yourself. The hours that you spend building yourself, you know, they have a way of multiplying, you know, and showing up in several areas of your life. And then people start to wonder, oh, wow, we didn't know that she's all that. We didn't know that she can do all that. Yes, they don't know that you've been building up yourself, that you've been on a journey, you know. Again, self-esteem is a journey, and every step that you take towards understanding it is a step towards personal growth. And we hope to see you at the top as you build.
Sorry, can I interrupt? There's a question in the chat.
Okay.
I posted it to you before we conclude.
Okay. Okay, how about making others realize your self-worth if it's necessary? Okay. Okay. Does anybody want to answer that question? How about making others realize your self-worth if it is necessary to help others realize your self-worth? Let me stop sharing for a while. Anybody wants to answer that question? Is it necessary? How do you make, or is it necessary to help others realize your self-worth?
I want to try it at that.
Okay,
Can I go ahead?
Okay, go ahead.
So what I think is this: you can't make anybody see or do anything. What is mainly for me, what's important as far as self-esteem is that you understand your self-worth and you live and move in that understanding. Now, anybody that is looking out for it or ready for it will see it and value it. And the reality is, if there's anybody who doesn't value you for who you are, then you just need to let them be. You can't make anybody do anything, but you have to remember that it's your self-worth. It's the way you see yourself. It doesn't really matter about how they see you, because you can't make them see you in any way other than the way they want to see you. That's what I think.
Thank you so much. Miss Adejorin, you have the floor.
Okay. I told the line of the last speaker, and I personally, of recent, I've had to do a lot of distancing from a set of colleagues. You know how Nigerian, especially the public service, could be, and you really cannot prove yourself. You know you have it. So there's no doubt about it. And there is a Yoruba proverb that's, even if you have a big horse, your detractors or whoever does not want to see that will just say, oh, isn't it that little object?
A pony. They call it a pony.
So it's really about you, and know that you matter in the scheme of things. Set your boundaries, and
exactly.
Eventually people will respect it. And if they don't, you have moved.
You have moved. Thank you so much. And I agree with you. Set your boundaries. One way that I think you can show your self-worth is how you deliver. For instance, especially if it's in the workplace, you deliver on your goals, you deliver with on your task, on your achievements, the way you carry yourself, the way you portray yourself, the way you speak, even the way, like, there are times that people will think that you are at a higher level than you are just with the way you carry yourself. But ultimately you can make them realize it. You just, the only way I know, especially in the workplace, it's to deliver on your goals, be productive, be professional, you know. And sometimes the way you carry yourself determines how people relate with you. There are times I've had to say to somebody on a conference call, excuse me, I take exception to to that. I take exception to being spoken to that way because I knew they were not speaking to me the right way. I knew they were being unprofessional. So, but that's not even about self-worth. That's just about, like Ms. Adejori said, set the boundaries. So, but it's not that I'm trying to make you realize my self-worth. I'm just telling you what is acceptable to me and what is not acceptable to me. Yes, in my mind, it's based on my self-worth because I know who I am and I know what I will take and what I won't take. But on the outside, it's about what is acceptable, what is professional, what is not professional. I'm not one of those that says nothing goes. No, we all know what goes. We all know what is appropriate. We all know what is good. We all know what is right. So the only way you can do that is by making sure, especially when it now comes to, interpersonal relationships, defining the boundaries. This is how I would be spoken to. This is not acceptable. This is not all right. This is not professional. Other than that, if they want to acknowledge it, they may not even acknowledge it, but they will know. So if they choose to acknowledge it, fine. If they don't choose to acknowledge it, no problem. The other thing I would add is that if you are a part of an organization and that puts me down mentality has become the norm in that organization, then you may want to move on if you are in a position to move on. Because if it has become the culture of the organization to put certain people down or put certain classes of people down, it's not a war you will be able to win quickly. So if it's beginning to get at you and affect you, then you may have to now start planning what I call have an exit strategy. Have an exit strategy because like somebody said, nobody thrives in an environment where they're tolerated. We all thrive in environments where we are recognized for what we do. We are recognized for who we are. We are even celebrated for it. The worth, the value that we bring to the table is acknowledged and rewarded, right? So if you now work in an organization or a team where your work, your commitment, your contributions are neither being recognized nor acknowledged nor rewarded, then you may start working towards an exit strategy. But take your time, don't rush it. Take your time and continue to build your worth. Ms. Adeshuyi, you have the floor.
Yes, I think we also have a duty. The Bible says that we're a brother's keeper, a sister's keeper. That there are times when people who are otherwise self-confident go through some sort of situation in their lives where the confidence is beaten down. It could be through a relationship or things that are happening that makes them vulnerable. And that's a time when you find that people with high self-esteem, that self-esteem can be beaten down. And I think we need to be mindful, as a brothers and sisters keeper, to be there and to build them up and to tell them, no, you're this person that you're not less than, so that we build them up and ensure that we help to sustain their self-esteem. I've seen it happen in so many situations, and I think we all must be mindful and at least be aware of the danger of that and support them during their vulnerable time so that they can get through it, their self-esteem intact. Of course, with children, as being parents, we know to build them up, but we need to also be there for our sisters and our brothers as well.
All right. Thank you. Miss Adejori, I see your hand. Was it from the previous one or? Okay, I see you've lowered it. Okay. All right. So I'm going back to the slide and then we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for your contributions. I think this has been a nice discussion. And I want to say a very big thank you for all of you that have participated and engaged in this webinar. We hope you've been encouraged and empowered to, conquer whatever doubts and negativities. We all have things that play in our head sometimes, and sometimes, like Ms. Adeshuyi said, sometimes the things that we go through or we pass through. I said to somebody, this is something that many people are probably hearing on this call for the first time. In 1 year, I lived in 4 addresses. In 1 year, I lived in 4 addresses. I could have easily become homeless. And I say that with all seriousness. So at such a time, if I didn't have a proper self-esteem and I didn't have a strong support system, I don't know what could have happened, but that's the truth. You know, some of you might think, what does she mean? I lived in 4 addresses. Yes, that's what I mean. I lived in 4 addresses in the space of 1 year, you know. So sometimes people go through things that can easily make them, you know, like drop their, you know, like basically they're in the dump. That's what it is, you know. But it's all we can help them. We are around them, we can help them build their self-esteem, we can help them, encourage them and all of that. But ultimately, it's still their responsibility. All we can do is support, all we can do is encourage. So let's endeavor to support and encourage as much as we are, you know, so that we are building one another, or we're helping one another to be strong and to be better individuals, better parents, and stronger communities. Please follow us on our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And of course, you can always send us an email, parentinginitiatives@gmail.com. If you need any help, if you have any follow-up questions, if you're dealing with any situation that you would like for us to help with or to connect you with resources. We have in-house professionals that can help you. We have therapy coaches, therapists, we have coaches, you know, we have people in leadership. So if you have anything that you think we might help you with, we would be glad to help you. Just send us an email, or you can send me a text message. I'm going to leave my phone, leave my phone number in the chat now. And okay, let me stop sharing. I'm going to put my phone number in the chat. If you need help, please reach out. We will be glad to come alongside you. So again, thank you, everyone. We are glad you could join us this afternoon. This is going to be posted on YouTube maybe in the next week or so. So if you need to do a recap, feel free to go on YouTube and check. It's also live streamed on Facebook. So at the end, it would be there as well. You can refer to it. And if you would like a copy of the slide, you can send me an email with your email address. Of course, send me an email, parentinginitiatives@gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining us. We hope to see you at our next webinar or meetup. Have a nice weekend. Thank you.